Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the Online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, we featured a very strong team with Physical Life Orb Yveltal, as well as SCREECH, Regieleki, and Choice Scarf Kyogre. This team is incredibly powerful. It was built by TSL Tang, who I've linked down in the description below, and there's a rental and paste if you want to try it out yourselves as well. So yeah, thanks so much as always for watching Road to Rank. If you enjoy, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And the Indianapolis Regional Championships are taking place this weekend. I'm currently commentating the tournament, but I did pre-record some videos before leaving. And so question of the day, I'm curious if you tuned into the regional stream today and what you thought of the games and the commentary. So yeah, and if you didn't get to tune in, Grand Finals is actually taking place tomorrow, top 8, top 4, and final. So hope to see some of you there on the stream. So let's get started. All right, our first game here, and we're actually up against Dialga plus Groudon, which is not a restricted duo that we've really fought against too much in this format. It's funny, you would see this occasionally back in 2016, and I think players nickname it like Sunny D. So where's our damage into Dialga coming from? It's mainly max darkness from Yveltal, maybe high horsepower from Rillaboom. I think Dialga is actually going to cause me a lot of issues here. So I think it's probably like I want a Moongus potentially. Redirection's valuable. I think Gieleki Yveltal is pretty interesting because let's say they go like Grim Dialga and I just like Screech Max Darkness one-shot Dialga. Puts us in such a nice spot. So I definitely want the top 3. I feel like the top 3 come out in like almost every match that I play with this team, and it's always figuring out like which one out of the bottom 3 do I want to bring. Instant's only value here is Intimidate onto Groudon and potential Fake Out. Rillaboom would only be for Grassy Glide onto Groudon. I'm interested in Moongus solely because if I even get a single Spore off with it, it changes the game drastically. But I think Incineroar is like maybe the safer option just because like it's decently bulky. I don't know. I mean, the Chople Berry doesn't really help us out in this matchup. So I don't really want to bring that. And then like a Moongus with Citrus means I can like use Rage Powder to redirect a big attack away. And if we eliminate Charizard, they don't bring Charizard, and Moongus has a slightly better time as well. And it's Dialga Grim. Okay. So, normally in this position, you would expect special Yveltal, right? You would expect Dialga to be in a pretty safe spot. The other question is whether or not they have Fake Out on Grim, because if you do, you could totally Fake Out Gieleki. But the play I want to go for here is just Screech into Dialga, Dynamax, and Max Darkness. So, let's see. It would make me very happy to get the Screech combo off here. Now, Screech was really relevant in the previous episode where we featured this team, but I could see a world in which my opponent goes Light Screen turn 1 with Grim, Dynamax, Dialga, we one-shot Dialga, and then just win the game off turn 1. That's a possibility. And I really like teams in the format that give you the potential to have a very, very powerful turn 1. So the worst case here is probably Fake Out Dialga, and then, or Grimmsnarl Fake Out Gieleki, and then Dialga also doubles up on slot. Or they know this team and then set up a Reflect. But even if you set up a Reflect, Darkness is still doing a ton of damage. Best case is, yeah, turn 1 they Light Screen, Dynamax, Dialga, try to max move one of my Pokemon, and we just one-shot it with the combo. So let's see. Okay, no Dynamax. Interesting. Grim also does not go for a priority attack here, so it's going for a Spirit Break most likely. Okay, well, we one-shot the Dialga, I think. And this is such a big deal because the rest of my team, like, cannot do anything to Dialga, it feels like, damage-wise, right? Gieleki, Dialga resists the attacks. A Moongus, doing no damage to it. And so, sometimes you have, like, somewhat narrow win conditions. They Spirit Break, but yeah, we're physical, so I don't really care. You have somewhat narrow win conditions against certain Pokemon, and so you have to identify that and play towards that, right? And in this matchup, I knew that dealing with Dialga was going to be difficult, so I was really happy to see my opponent lead it. Now, would have been a little bit happier if they went for a Dynamax there, but it's okay. They were probably trying to Trick Room there, by the way. So we've got Kyogre and a Moongus in the back. I mean, they are just so weak to Water Spout at this point in the game, right? Like... This turn's interesting, because I could target either slot. Like, Grimmsnarl doesn't actually deal damage, so you would think I don't need to worry about it that much. Screech and a Groudon. Okay. I mean, I'm down to just Screech Max Darkness. Like, my only fear is Grimmsnarl Thunder Waving Kyogre for when it comes in and clicks Water Spout is the thing. But if we get this amount of damage early on... The other interesting question with the Groudon is, do you Rock Fall? I would think so. And then also, is Groudon fast enough to outspeed Scarf Kyogre after T-Wave? Like, do you have any speed investment on it is my other question. Okay, they go for Scary Face. So that's their means of speed control. It's good to know. Which means I'll get Darkness off before the Screech, so that's a nice play by them. But now you're in Water Spout or Origin Pulse KO range, obviously. So this is where if I had Incin, Regieleki out into Incin was a pretty consistent play. Because now I am at risk of Groudon Rock Falling Yveltal. They go for Quake. Okay, fantastic. That is excellent. So Regieleki's going to hang on. No, I've gotten the Screech off onto your Groudon, so I can just Max Darkness again pretty safely. I don't care about the special defense boost, obviously. Is there any value in conserving the Regieleki? What is my opponent's final Pokemon here? Charizard makes the most sense offensively, otherwise it's Incin, Porygon. To which Kyogre is obviously quite good against both. So now I would think Grimmsnarl is going to want to set up his screens. I mean, they've gone for Spirit Break. Like, maybe it's not the dual screens variant. But then I would think they'd have Fake Out on turn 1, honestly. Okay, I'm going to pivot Regieleki out into Amoonguss here. And go for another Max Darkness onto Groudon. The idea of getting in Amoonguss here is to just conserve Regieleki in case their final Pokemon is Charizard. Okay. Okay, they go for Max Guard, honestly. I mean, that's fine. And Sucker Punch. So, yeah, I mean, Sucker Punch, Spirit Break, and Scary Face. So it might be Focus Sash and Fake Tears as their last attack. Does Foul Play KO Groudon right now is my question. I would expect it to be honest. I'm honestly down to just Protect here and Foul Play into Groudon. I mean, this is Life Orb. We're using Groudon's attack stat and they're at -2 defense. I kind of expect it to KO, but let's see. Okay. Oh, so close. But it's fine. Because, yeah, they have a berry. Yeah. Like, okay, let's say you KO Yveltal. Well, I just bring out Kyogre and then I just Rage Powder Water Spout, right? And they're actually going to Quake into Amoonguss. Okay. That makes sense. And then Spirit Break onto Yveltal. Sure. That was so close, though. Because if we get the KO there, I really do think we just win the game with Kyogre late game. But honestly, I don't mind Yveltal fainting here, because there's a free switch into Kyogre. Okay, cool. The fact that they weren't like dual screens here honestly helped me out a bit, in my opinion. So now we can bring out Scarf Kyogre. And I can just Rage Powder Water Spout, right? Like, the Grimmsnarl just does not do very much for my opponent. You can switch Groudon out. But like what's coming in, right? Porygon 2, Incin, Charizard, they're just really weak to Kyogre outside of Dialga. And that's why Gastrodon's so often seen on these teams, right? So, yeah, we're just going to Rage Powder to deter a Scary Face. That way we guarantee outspeed my opponent. And late game Kyogre is looking amazing. So, if you're in my opponent's shoes, like, after this game, the adjustment you could make is to keep Dialga in the back and then like maybe lead Groudon, for example. Although I can get the hesitance in that because it feels like the Grimmsnarl doesn't contribute very much to the Groudon. The last one is Porygon too, okay. So, things get a little bit interesting here if, I mean, to be honest, like even if you set up Trick Room, Amoonguss kind of just dunks on you under Trick Room. So, I feel like they don't really have too many outs because their damage output is just very lacking right now. And it's like, what is Grimmsnarl going to do here, right? Okay, well, hang on. Grim, of course, having those special defense boosts. Their Spirit Break. Yeah, just into Amoonguss. So, I don't know. It was interesting because I think you could actually have made a good argument for Rillaboom, Incineroar, and the Amoonguss. And, like, when it was Regieleki and Yveltal on the field, I was like, oh, I'd rather have Incin out right now just for an Intimidate. But Amoonguss now, like, makes this endgame so super nice for us. I'm actually going to click Spore on a Porygon here because I think my opponent's play maybe is to switch Grimmsnarl out into Groudon and try to Trick Room with Porygon. Yeah. Even if you get Trick Room up, I don't think it actually matters, but... Like, even if my opponent clicks Scary Face into Kyogre, Kyogre's still going to outspeed Porygon too, most likely, in that position. So I don't really need to worry about the Scary Face here. So there's ups and downs to using, like, a slightly more offensive Grimmsnarl, right? My opponent ran both Spirit Break and Sucker Punch on their set there, so... In this matchup, it did not help them very much. I think dual screens would have been a lot tougher to fight against, but yeah, they were trying to Trick Room there. And that play makes sense, right? If I go for a Rage Powder, but then the thing is, even if you get Trick Room up, it's like, I don't know how Porygon and Grimm is really going to win the game offensively when they're both, like, such low HP. So, the main thing here is that we were able to eliminate one of, if not the scariest damage dealer on my opponent's team for nothing on turn 1, right? And that was really, really nice. So, they could have Fake Out, I suppose. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I wonder if Pollen Puff KOs Grim. Like, I'm down to just Pollen Puff Water Spell. Porygon's never winning a 3v1 like this anyway. Yeah. So the main advantage in this, I mean, Physical Yveltal has been absolutely amazing, right? Like, you can see why this team has been, like, was so consistent when TSL Tang used it to get top 30 in the last ranked season. So... I just love the extra burst of damage that you get from Yveltal, especially because a lot of the restricted Pokemon we're attacking into have like higher special defense than defense, it feels like, often. And so, yeah, just like being able to not have to worry about Assault Vest and just like hit for so much and then combo it with Screech is just all super sweet. So, let's look for another. Alright, next game here, we've got Sableye, Groudon, Charizard, Zacian, Regieleki, and Gastrodon. So... when I was practicing with this team, I had like this one game where I had an amazing lead. I was up 4-2, but then they had Groudon plus Gastro in the end game. And I brought the top 4 Pokemon, and I literally just could not beat Dynamax Gastrodon. So as painful as it is to bring Rillaboom into a matchup with Charizard, I think it's necessary. Sableye here is also scary, although the nice thing about Yveltal is we're actually immune to Prankster. I want all of the top 5 Pokemon, so I really don't know who to drop. What I learned, though, is I feel like Rillaboom is almost a necessity, because otherwise my win condition against Gastrodon is so slim, especially a late-game Gastrodon. I might honestly drop Incineroar here. I know that feels really odd, but it doesn't deal much damage. It's only, you know, primarily to get an Intimidate on a Groudon and Zacian, and that's super valuable, but... Here, I think I prefer to bring Rillaboom. And, like, basically in the game where I went up against, like, the classic Sun stuff, I picked up knockouts very, very quickly, but then in the end realized, I was like, okay, well, Regieleki can't hit Gastrodon, Incineroar can't do anything against Gastrodon physical, Yveltal against Dynamax Gastrodon, also not very good. It's like, what do I do here, right? They're gonna go with the Regieleki and Groudon. Okay. I can Screech Max Darkness Groudon, but that's not a guaranteed KO. In fact, I wouldn't expect it to KO. I have Tailwind on Yveltal, which is interesting. I guess they could Dynamax Regieleki here as well. Like Max Lightning Yveltal and then just Precipice Blades is the other consideration. They could also Electro Web. I think I'm actually down to switch out into Rillaboom and Protect turn 1. To bait out a Dynamax from either Pokemon here. Because I think both are in a position to potentially Dynamax right now. I guess the problem, though, is like I'm bringing Rillaboom out so early, then if I lose it, how am I beating late-game Gastrodon, right? So turn 1, like the scary thing is because Yveltal doesn't have Protect, I don't feel like I feel super safe with it out on the field, especially with, like... I don't think Regieleki is going to max, but I have to cover for it. Something's maxing. Which one is that? Okay, it is going to be It is Alecki Dynamax. Okay. I like it when my opponents prove me wrong because it goes to show why I'm trying to cover for these options, right? This isn't necessarily all great, though, as they'll be able to change the terrain successfully. And that's a little bit awkward for Rillaboom right now. What? I would not have expected Max Scar there. Okay. I'll take it. Huh. That is very interesting. Okay. I definitely want to get an Electro Web off onto their... it's just now I'm wondering, are you physical Alecki? Because if so, you can max Airstream Rillaboom into Precipice Blades. Airstream is actually a nightmare here. I actually want to just Grassy Glide Alecki, because then it might just be in Sucker Punch KO range, honestly. Grassy Glide and Electro Web here. Especially because you max guarded last turn. Okay, Groudon switches out. It could be Instinct coming in here. Nope, it's Zacian. Okay, so getting Electro Web off against that's really sweet. Okay. That's fantastic damage. And we move first, which is awesome as well. Okay, that's a great turn, regardless of what Alecki goes for here. So we'll see. Does it Strike, Lightning, Airstream? It's just Lightning. Okay. Onto Rillaboom as well, so... That turn 1 Max Guard was just so surprising to me. Especially because it's like, I get it if you're trying to protect yourself from getting hit by Evoltol, but the Groudon wasn't responding to Evoltol either. So I wonder if they were expecting my Alecki to honestly Dynamax there to target their Alecki. Like, that's the best explanation I can think of, but it's a pretty obscure play to make, to be honest. Okay. If I Electro Web again, do I outspeed Alecki with Rillaboom? I don't think so, right? 105, no. Does Thunderbolt and Terrain KO their Regieleki? That's the other interesting question. Don't know about that. The thing is, my opponent can't knock out both of my Pokemon here. Okay. We'll take it, I guess. Yeah, I honestly, I would love to like get their insight on their decision to Dynamax Alecki on turn 1. This is really surprising, honestly. We'll take it, but yeah, very curious on what they were going for there. So, I mean, I think the game wasn't over yet, but with us having Choice Scarf, Kyogre, and Dynamax left, and getting that amazing turn with Glide and Electro Web, like, they were in such a bad spot, honestly. But they could have picked up a knockout onto Rillaboom there and brought an Alecki down to 1 HP. But then the thing is, okay, then I just bring out Kyogre, and then I can just outspeed you with Water Spout and Electro Web pressure. And even if you switch Groudon in to change the weather, you still take so much damage from Water Spout, and then I can Dynamax Evoltol in the end game as well. But I guess the one thing to consider is whether or not they brought Gastrodon, because if you bring out Gastro, then that also changes the dynamic, so it doesn't mean I have a definitive win. But yeah, I was just really surprised by Max Guard Alecki there. There's also the chance that they like timed out or like just misclicked as well, because Max Guard just feels like such a specific play, and there aren't that many things it really covers for either let or safe. So we'll take it, but yeah, just surprised by that. Okay, Calyrex, Kyogre, Whimsicott, Gastro, Instant, Indeedee, Male for this one. I feel like playing the ladder recently has been really cool because there's just been a lot of non-meta restricted duos. Like, yeah, you run into Zacian Ogre or Groudon Zacian a fair amount, but there are a lot of other things that are around, and I think that's really cool. So Evoltol theoretically should be excellent here. I want to bring a Moongus to cover for the Trick Room option. This is one of the matchups where I think all of our Pokemon are decent. I think Incin is the first Pokemon I eliminate from bringing here because it's super bad into Indeedee plus Kyogre. Like, Indeedee sets up Psychic Terrain, can't even click Fake Out. Kyogre can Dynamax Geyser us. The only reason I'd really bring it is for Intimidate into Calyrex, but I don't think that's enough of a reason to justify bringing it. So, we'll drop that. This could be Speedy Calyrex, so Whimsicott Calyrex is a duel to watch out for here. Oh, that's actually pretty scary. Whimsicott Calyrex. So I should go Lecky Evoltol. Going with the Lecky Evoltol, but I really don't know about it here. Like, the funny thing is, like, I eliminated Incin as the first Mon, but if they went like Whimsicott Calyrex, Incin as a lead is actually solid there. But that's only against Whimsicott Calyrex. Every other lead, and I would not want to bring Incin into the battle, personally. Let's NDD Calyrex. Actually, Incin against this isn't terrible either. But the only problem I have on turn 1 is the Mind Game on both Pokemon can Trick Room right now. You know what would be a crazy play is like clicking Trick Room with both Pokemon on turn 1, expecting one to get knocked out and the other to set up Trick Room. Because the play I want to go for is just Screech, Foul Play, Calyrex-Ice Rider. I actually think maxing Rillaboom is a possibility in this game as well, which is why I'd rather... Like, I don't need to Dynamax on turn 1, in my opinion. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. I guess NDD... we'll see. The problem is I can't cover for both Pokemon clicking Trick Room on turn 1. So I'm just gonna go all in on Calyrex-Ice Rider. Because I could see my opponent Dynamaxing Calyrex, like, Hailstorm, Evoltol, and then Trick Room. Being like, okay, I can take a Foul Play. Yeah, you'll do a lot of damage. You'll activate my policy, maybe. But then I'll get Trick Room up. And they are Dynamaxing, which I would say is a good start. I think NDD Male can Fake Out, though, right? So the one problem with this play is that they click Fake Out onto the Evoltol slot. And the other problem is if I miss Screech, but that's a risk I'm willing to take on turn 1 here, because I think if we get it off, and we just win. Unless they Max Guard here. No Max Guard. Screech connects. Okay. I mean, does Foul Play get the KO? Like, I would think so. Let's see. This team is so sick. It's actually amazing. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they get the Trick Room up, but like you just have no Dynamax anymore. And if it's Kyogre or Gastro as their final two, then Rillaboom Max just puts us in a very solid spot. The game's still not over by any means because I'm so fast-paced there, but I will take that trade off turn 1. I couldn't deny Trick Room and KO Calyrex, so I'm glad enough to just have KO Calyrex. Because the reality is if my opponent Max Guards turn 1, they just get Trick Room up, and then they win, right? But from that position, it's like, do you want to risk the Max Guard? Because I can double up onto the NDD slot, right? So their play is to probably just expanding Force and Water Spout right now. I'm honestly thinking about just sacrificing Evoltol to get a free switch into Rillaboom. I have to consider Incineroar being my opponent's last Pokemon, right? But then that's where my Kyogre helps out. So honestly, here I am down to just dual Wing Beat into the Kyogre slot. We probably Feign from Water Spout, but that's fine. And then Protect. This allows me to bring out Rillaboom, change the terrain, max, and then go from there. I could max Evoltol in this position, but it's like, I'm just going to get outsped, and I don't love that. And it's like, maybe Darkness does get the one-hit KO onto Kyogre, but I just think Rillaboom is a better max option right now, given that we eliminated the main threat to it in Calyrex-Ice Rider. And they don't even KO Evoltol. Okay, cool. Instead of dual Wing Beat, it may have been a little bit more consistent to go for, I don't know, like Foul Play. I could have targeted Indy there as well. But this works out perfectly, because Evoltol feints, granting me the free switch it into Rillaboom. Cool. Okay, our good old buddy Rillaboom comes out. Change the terrain. I guess I don't even need to necessarily Dynamax here. I think it's actually better not to max in case their last Pokemon is indeed Incineroar. So like here I'm down to just Grassy Glide into Kyogre and then just Thunderbolt. Because if you're not at risk of taking damage, then you have to ask yourself, what's the point of maxing here, right? And so if I max and they do indeed have Incineroar as their last one, I think we still win the game, to be honest, because like they just don't have enough damage output. So they're going to switch out here. It is Gastro's the last one. Perfect. Yeah. I guess the advantage of maxing there was maybe like KOing Kyogre through Protect. The only thing to really watch out for right now is a potential yawn from the Kyogre, I would say. We still have my Kyogre in the back. Honestly, my Kyogre is not even that important in this end game. 2 turns of Trick Room left. If I were them, I would pivot Kyogre out into Indeedee. So let's just max the Rillaboom now and Drum Solo into Gastro and just Thunderbolt into their Kyogre. Okay, Gastro switches, fine by me. This is just a double KO and it's game over. Unless you freeze with Ice Beam. That's their only win con now. Well, actually, I don't know if we knock out Indeedee because it hasn't taken damage and there's a decent chance it has Focus Sash as well. But with us having Sash on Lecky, like this was a pretty safe play. The main thing to not get baited here was clicking Grassy Glide, right? And I mean, we still could get frozen, I guess. That's like the one thing I'm worried about. I guess the other thing to consider was switching it up and using Rillaboom onto the Kyogre slot rather than the Gastrodon slot. But the thing is, if we eliminate Gastrodon, then that gets rid of their main counter to my Kyogre, right? Yeah, we outspeed under Trick Room as well. Cool. Probably Sashed, right? Yeah. Indeedee Male is like a very straightforward Pokemon generally with Expanding Force, Imprison, Trick Room, and then a 4th. Organ Pulse, cool. Brings us down to Sash, no problem. T-Bolt KOs Kyogre. Yeah, that's pretty much game. Like, if you're not going for the freeze win con onto the Rillaboom at this point. Well, oh, no. The freeze win con's still possible, I guess, because you have Gastrodon in the back. Yeah. Is it ever just switch out Rillaboom then into Kyogre? Because this is the last turn of Trick Room, so if I switch out into Kyogre here, like freeze is something I legitimately am worried about from Gastrodon. So the logic here is, okay, Rillaboom goes out into Kyogre. I don't have to worry about a freeze anymore. I don't care if you freeze Kyogre personally. And I will just Thunderbolt here because this gives me the free switch in back into Rillaboom and then Grassy Glide just wins us the game. So it feels weird to switch out a Dynamax like that. Oh, you know what? That wasn't necessary. The better play there is Max Guard Rillaboom and just T-Bolt. Yeah, they go for the Ice Beam Freeze. Max Guard was definitely the better play. I don't think it matters, to be honest, but it like gives them no freeze chance at all. Versus here, like they could have frozen the Kyogre, right? Which I honestly wouldn't even really care about because Rillaboom should win the 2v1 at this angle. But yeah. Like if I Max Guard there, then I just lose a Lecky, bringing Kyogre. We're in the same position, but with the Gigantamax Rillaboom. I just wanted to change the terrain as well, but okay. Now I can just go for Ice Beam onto the Indeedee, Grassy Glide onto Gastrodon. Actually, Fake Out Ice Beam is always more consistent here, no? Like, what do I have to lose by that, right? Like, the only thing I don't know is, like, if Indeedee is running some, like, surprise move that I have never seen before, so I don't mind clicking Fake Out here. We've only seen Expanding Force and Trick Room. I still expect Imprison. I don't even know, I guess, if you run Imprison on this set, because it's like, do you really need to stop Trick Room from going up? Because your team is so slow that you want it to go up. So on this set, maybe there's no Trick Room. Sorry, Imprison. But normally when you see Indeedee Male, you should expect Imprison and Trick Room. Okay, yeah, they just end up forfeiting. Cool. Yeah, I think Max Guard. I mean, I think there are multiple ways to play that endgame. I'm just thinking if Kyogre got frozen there. Do we see an item on Gastro? I'm just curious if you're Rindo and you can survive. Like, maybe that causes me some issues. But, yeah. I mean, this team is absolutely amazing. Like I mentioned in the previous episode, I picked it up because I was just, like, struggling trying out some more niche teams. And was, like, not having very good success in, like, practicing with them. And so, you know, when you go on a rough losing streak, I always find it helpful to like go to a team that you know can be more consistent and just like generally strong into a lot of the format. And this team was it. Like as soon as I tried it out, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is absolutely incredible. So TSL Tang, really one of the best team builders in my opinion in Sword and Shield, especially for a lot of the online like best of one ladder oriented teams, and never fails to impress me, honestly. So huge kudos. So before we actually finish off this episode, I wanted to talk about like what makes a team really good and consistent, especially for best of one, because we were able to go 6-0 with this Evoltol team, right? But as you can see, my win-loss actually for the season isn't amazing. I've tried out a lot of different teams just, you know, to practice and determine what I want to feature on Road to Ranked. And this team, for example, is just so strong. It is consistent, but it also has some very good surprises, right? And I think part of the nature of it is that it's very fast-paced. It often moves before your opponent can even get an attack off, and the surprise in physical Evoltol plus the Regieleki is so powerful that it can single-handedly win you a game in a single turn, right? And that kind of power is just very, very valuable in Series 12. And so, you know, as I talked about in the previous episode as well, success can often be tied to the team that you're using. It's not just the team, right? But the team is a major factor of it. And so for me personally, like when I find myself struggling and like not being able to make a certain team work, and often that's because like I just don't really understand how to play it. And you know, when you're trying out more niche Pokemon or more niche strategies, there's more like a specific routes or specific lines of action that you need to take in order to succeed, versus using a team that has just so much sheer power and that it's a little bit more intuitive, right? And so for this team, it was, I think, a little bit easier to pick up, but VGC teams sometimes can be very difficult to learn quickly, right? Especially if they feature a lot of like obscure Pokemon that you're not used to playing with, and you're not used to their speed tiers or their damage calcs or whatever. And so like, I think what makes this team so strong is that it features, you know, obviously a lot of the best Pokemon, but also has some very unique surprises that can allow you to win games very quickly. When I brought the Solgaleo team to Salt Lake City Regionals, one of the reasons I really valued it was because few people expected Choice Scarf Groudon, and so like the combination of Scarf Groudon into Policy Solgaleo could actually just win me a game on a single turn. And you have to consider like that's really valuable, especially in best of one on the ladder. But this is also a team that I think is consistent enough to do well in a best of 3 event, honestly. Like even after you figure out its physical Evoltol, how do you really stop it, right? And so yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about like consistency on teams, because like I've literally gone like 0-6 with certain teams that I've tried because I'm just really bad at playing with them. And maybe afterwards, you know, it takes me longer to understand it. Eventually I pick it up, but then there are other teams that are like a lot more intuitive or just are so strong that it's like a little bit easier to pick up, right? So I guess my point in saying this is don't get discouraged if you go on really bad losing streaks, and it's always good to, you know, try up something new and maybe change up your team, or yeah, just like it helps me break out of a mental rut when I feel like I'm really struggling on the ladder. So yeah, anyway, that's gonna be it. So don't forget to tune into the regional stream tomorrow, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.